we are really looking to submit a policy brief on reforms to exams. It has to be done very quickly because we have education front, and they get our ideas, and also in the public domain, and have a some exposure to these ideas. So I actually, in our notice, we talk about three exams, but we can't just, there's this notion that we should, grade 5 scholarship. Some people are very passionate, and some say we should remove it, some say 8, so on. But I think the problem is, when you take time, we really need to think that, we need to think about the children who start in and who move on, and we need to think of the whole system, national examination system, and we really need to frame pathways for children to know, and you to know where, from what point, one point where they could, what are the options available to them. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, we really don't have a map like that, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember the Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission, I was a Director General for a while, and we, everywhere, even then, I'm sure even now, we've been toying with various diagrams to show these various pathways. And I think this is an opportunity to come up with something like that. So that's why I said reforming national examination system in Sri Lanka. And I think what we need is a consensus on some assessment framework. And of course, whatever we propose, accountability is a must, because we have to identify who's going to do this. Otherwise, you can come up with all kinds of good ideas, but we need to know who will carry it forward. So there's a 4th policy dialogue and so on. So I think, to me, I'm starting with accountability. It is the current norm. See, if you think of the 1,709 live births, give or take some, let's say 370,000 or 360,000 children, this cohort will turn 18 in 2020. At some point in 2020, they'll turn 18. We don't have any idea of where they are. I think but something we know is that 7% of them, actually 2018, 7.4 of the 19 to 24-year-old group. So, I mean, on average, every cohort, we can say 7.47% will go to a public university. The percent was way back about 10 years ago, it's about 5%, now it's increased. So we know that 7% are going to go to the universities. But the other 93%, I think they're really off the radar. Let's see why I say this. This is a diagram we developed, and it gives the age range from, I will start from the bottom, 0 to 5, and then it ends up with 21 to 22 range. And if you go to the right to the top, this is where I mean by the 7%. I put UGC there. We all know, we talk about UGC admissions, who goes to UGC, who gets selected, Z-score and all that. There's a lot of discussion. And then there's another silo here, which I call TVEC, Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission. There are a lot of institutions under their regulation. I put it in light gray, because I think they are also somewhat off the radar. When I say off the radar, I mean attention of the policymakers and the public. Because, it's a second option. Parents, even a minister I heard recently say, "Balannoko mata hambune me mekane kamak naha ithin kiyana," right? So that's an attitude. So I think, that's why I think even these students, Mr. Suruvira can say something about this, but I think they're off the radar. Even the numbers are not as, widely known. Institutions, there are so many institutions, colleges of technology, technical colleges, but there's not much known about this and who these students are. We don't know them. And of course, there's a huge gray area. We really don't know where these 18 to 22-year-olds are, what they're doing. But let me start at the beginning, again, this framework. At the bottom, early childhood education and early childhood development and early childhood education, I put it in also in light gray. Because even there, we really don't know much about that area. Then, of course, primary, we know once children go to school, there's so much interest in year one admission and so on. So the next 4 layers, we know quite a bit about them. Primary, there are 4 subjects and the children do 4 subjects. It's general education, activity-based oral English is there. Then junior secondary, the children do 13 subjects. There are 13 subjects on offer and children do all 13 subjects. Senior secondary, actually, NIE would prepare lesson curricula for about 51 subjects, and students can select 9 of those. That is senior secondary. And then you have the collegiate level, which is grade 12 to 13. Actually, there are about 95 subjects that the NIE works on. Because recently, I talk more about it because a new set of vocational subjects were also offered. Of course, not all these are for national, tested at national level, but then students typically choose about 3 subjects, but in the vocational stream, it's I think the numbers of subjects vary. So we have 3 streams: the academic stream, technological stream, and the vocational stream. So these I put in lighted area. We know so much about these areas, but you can see there are some dark areas. Each of these layer, this 370,000, I don't know how many when they enter school, how many entered school in 2002. 2007 rather, these children are born in 2002. So, but whatever, there's a dropout rate. And when I last checked, by the time they sit for the GCA O level at the end of grade 11, about 15% have dropped off. So that number may have improved or gotten worse. I don't know. But of this 85%, then another, we know about 70%. Now the pass rates at the O level have been increasing. So another 70% passed O level. So that means of the total, any questions? Of the total cohort, about 40% drop off at this point, and they go into the dark area. We don't know what happens to them. And of course, after grade 13, UGC takes care of whoever is brought to their doorstep, the universities. TVC tries its best to recruit, and there's a lot of, I think, turnover in that sector. And number of graduates, I think, is much less than the number who enrolled. So I just do not put the numbers there. But the rest of it, I mean, there I include TVC. This 93%, I don't think they get enough attention. They are off the radar. And I think if you look at Singapore system, they do give the Ministry of Education, at the first page, they give this pathway for these children, and there are no dark areas. Each cohort, there's a place for them to fit in their youth, that is from 18 to 22. So I think when we talk about reforming exam system, we really need to, it's very important to develop this framework and have the pathways for each identified. Actually, when I say off the radar, but I think there's a new development where the school system is now giving us unique student ID to each student. So we have started tracking. Now each student sitting in the grade 5 scholarship exam will have a unique student ID. So we have a way of tracking students now. So I think there should be a system to track students from their actually birth to at least when they are 22, the youth group. And they should be given, all the options should be up there in one framework. So hopefully through our work, we can actually come up with some proposal like that. And I like to get your thoughts on that. So proposed accountability framework, I think it should be something like this. MOE means so the responsibility column is a third column. I think there has to be some authority for early childhood. It could be within the Ministry of Education, which is the School Education Authority. But right now, we have the TVC dealing with only, those who register in their institutions. And we have the UGC dealing with only with those coming to universities. But I think at each level, so we are actually divided vertically into silos. I think there has to be some division where it's actually there's authority, there's a responsibility at a horizontal level. So these, we have to think about who this authority would be. But also, for example, let's say from early childhood, then you go to primary, junior, secondary, that part is pretty much covered. But we know that after O-level, grade 11, there some are going to go out into the world of work, or what we call NEET, not in employment, education, or training. On the job training is what I put here, green and NEET. And right now, actually, we have an organization to deal with this. That is the National Youth Services. I think it's a highly underutilized organization. In fact, I think one idea is that National Youth Services really should be dealing with all ages 16 to 22, not giving them education, but keeping track of them. For example, like Ministry of Education database, they hand it over to the National Youth Service. When all 16-year-old on their database is handed to them. So they are tracked and they are given career guidance and they are given all the options available to them from the time they're 16 or when they leave grade 11. So right now, we have for the when they're 11, after senior secondary, only thing we know about is advanced secondary or collegiate level, and we have the, as I said before, academic, technical, and vocational tracks we have. And the vocational track is new, but there's still people who are going into technical and vocational education sector. And I think all these options should be on one place, because student, when somebody turns 16, you are thinking in terms of a 16-year-old. And a 16-year-old, all the options should be available there. So I put this as a, whatever is under TVC, they should be all under one umbrella. And when a student leaves school or at 16, they should be able to go to some site and find out all the options available to them, given the pathways. And so those are details, but I think when we talk about reforming these exams here, that's a discussion today, we need to keep that big picture in mind and always remember that when we changes to the O-level, that they'll be going to this. There are 3 pathways. They will be going onto the academic, technical, vocational within the school. They'll be going out in the schools to various. There are so many certificate courses. There are trade for computer science. There are so many trade level courses, or they'll be going into work, or they'll be just going. They'll be not in employment, education, or training. But we have to remember that when we think about any reforms to the ordinary level also, are they prepared for these 3 pathways? So that's a sort of, I think, and accountability, I think, would be on one level, it should be at a horizontal level, there should be some authority responsible for all keeping track of and regulating all qualifications. For example, tertiary year 1, usually, I think Upali can expand on that. On the qualification framework, this would be a diploma level, and tertiary year 2, higher diploma. And I would actually go under here, below that would be 2 levels of certificates. In the New Zealand and Australian qualification system, you have certificate level 1 and certificate level 2, and then diploma, higher diploma, and then degree. So, so there are these levels, and we really, I know the TVET side has articulated this, and but we need that articulated, and the ministry, there should be one authority, one ministry. It doesn't have to be one ministry, at least a council of ministers who is responsible for this whole framework. And then all the students, I think nobody should be, we can't have any child or youth left behind, because this is our precious resource. And I think there has to be some sort of handshake after the 16-year-old, they should be under the care, this whole database should be under the care of somebody. And I think National Youth Services is the ideal body for place for that. As I said, they will be offering programs or regulating programs, but they will be keeping track. So Now, within this framework, today we'll be focusing on these primary, junior secondary, and senior secondary. We know at the end of primary, we have the grade 5 scholarship. At the end of junior secondary, we have the GC O level. And at the end of senior secondary, at the junior secondary, we don't have a national exam. At the end of senior secondary, we have the GC O level. I think the next slide would be yes, this is the current national assessment framework. I don't know whether anybody's put it in one place like this, but this is the sort of framework we have in Sri Lanka. I think it's evolved. I don't think anybody put this in one place and looked at, okay, this is what we are offering for this level, and this is how they go on to the other level. Primary, there are 5 subjects: language, math, 4 subjects rather: language, math, environment, and religion. I have this religion shaded here because that's not actually part of the national scholarship exam. Scholarship exams test students on all 3 areas, in addition to these general intelligence questions. I'll talk more about that, about the structure of the scholarship exam and what changes we are proposing there. Junior secondary, there are 13 subjects. They're not tested at the national level. Provincial exams, I think the 3rd term, there's a provincial exam. I think other terms, it's at the school level. And I think at the 2nd term, it's at the zonal level. So there again, language, math, science, English, history, religion, it's not really identified as a core, but I put them there because to parallel with what is considered the core at the senior secondary. And then geography, citizenship, second language, aesthetics, ICT, practical and technical skills, and health and physical education. So 13 subjects children do, and they are tested for each and every one. I think Ms. Pushpika Abhiratna will correct me if I'm wrong. One child actually called me one day. She had heard me speak somewhere, and she had sent a message, "Ane ame auntyට මුකුත් කරන්න බැයිද මේ ගැන? ඇයි මේ හැම විෂයටමයි හැම ටීචර්ම homework දෙන්නේ කියලා." I think 13 subjects, I think, to be tested as as subjects that are to be tested. I think we need to think about that. And the senior secondary, there are 51 subjects that are offered by the Department of Examination. And the core is there, and then there's a group 1 basket. Students take 1 from there, and group 2, they select 1 from each of these. If you go to the advanced secondary, actually only 60 subjects are offered by the exams department. Of those, academic, I call academic, this 51 here and 51 here is a coincidence. I think the same number of subjects. These numbers could slightly change. I got these numbers in 2017. And the technological stream, they offer 9 subjects, and I compared them with international, the Cambridge EdExcel. These are, we offer a lot more subjects than those international exams. And technological, 9 subjects. And the new vocational stream, there are 9 core subjects and 26 areas of vocational specializations. So these are not offered for national exams. They are all for school-based assessments. So actually altogether, there's 90, I think 60, 69, 75, 95 actually added. So there are, think about this. When you put this in framework, I am astounded. I don't know about you, but I'm පුදුම හිතාගන්න අපේ ජාතික අධ්‍යාපන ආයතනයට කුයිතරම් මේ ඔක්කොටම කරිකියුලම් ලියන්න ඕන. මේ ඔක්කොටම ගුරුවරු පුහුණු කරන්න ඕන. මේක අපි ඇත්තටම රටක් හැටියට අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? හොඳට කරන්න පුළුවන්. Can we do a good job doing all this? So that's I think something to think about when put all this in one frame. And if I put all these subjects, I did not put the subjects of 51 subjects, 9 and this 25 here, because there wasn't enough room. But we really need to think about the number of subjects that we really expect our NIE to handle, and whether they can, and the exams department to handle, and whether they can do a quality job. If you're reforming the exam, that's, I think, reducing the number is something we need to think about. So the assessment framework, guiding principle, reduce, reduce, reduce. Adu karanna, adu karanna, adu karanna. This is a I think I put it 3 times for emphasis. Because when they sell houses, they say what's the most important thing? They say location, location, location. So it's the same idea. And testing of subject knowledge at national level, reduce the national level exams and time spent studying for tests. And national exams should be only one of many other things that we assess. So this is a framework that's been in discussion again. It's a completion certificate we're talking about. So national level exams will be only one part of it. There'll be 4 components, at least 4 components and that will comprise a primary school. Is my connection okay? You can hear? Yeah, good. Okay. I'm taking quite good. Yeah, primary, this is the last slide. Primary school certificate, then junior secondary school certificate. I think at each stage, children should be given a certificate. And national level aptitude exam. I mean, we already have aptitude exams. Actually, called the scholarship exam started as aptitude exam. Tara, how much time do I have? I think it's good.
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Aptitude exam started as started as an aptitude exam in 1944, testing general intelligence, literacy, and numeracy. In 1995, they added the subject with the children. They want to know whether children have learned what they were taught in school, because they felt that children were not, the teachers were not paying attention. So it was made into a what's called attainment exam. What is the children have learned. Aptitude is their the potential. And abhiyogyatave මේක සාධනය ඉගෙන ගත්තද කියන එක. So these two, actually, I think this part is really the part that's creating problems for children, or really distorting our education, because there's so much rote learning that goes on. The environment subject is totally distorted. It should be environmental activities, environment related activities, but it has become just an environment, facts about the environment. So I think the scholarship exam could be divided into 2, and this part, the attainment part, can be removed. That's the first major proposal in that it should be taken back to aptitude exam, and this attainment part, which involves a lot of rote learning and memorization of facts, can be taken out. So, and the SAT 4, I put scholastic aptitude test 4 is for the GCA level. We already have something called common general test, CGT. So that can be actually modified. At every step, you are checking to see whether the students have the aptitude to go to the next level, the literacy, numeracy level, that they need to go to the next level. These 2 are new, SAT 2 and SAT 3, but I think it will be useful to know at each stage. This is after grade, this is at grade 11, this is at grade 10. Because children can sometimes just do this exam and not worry about the GCO level even. Some children can do the SAT and just mark there, show get a pass there, and they can do school-based assessment, which is in the lighter part. So national level exams, reducing national level exams, I think, so Upali is going to expand on this area, but I'm not going to talk about it. He's going to talk about GCO level and how these actually get played out. So some of the other assessments are going to be at I say there are 4 components. First component is national level aptitude test. Then there's a second component, national level attainment test, which should not be carried out for small children in primary or junior secondary, but it should be only for older kids. And it should be, the number of subjects should be reduced. And at the school level, some of the subjects need to be assessed by paper and pencil. They should be done in a summative method, but most other subjects should be formative assessments using journals, field books, portfolios. For example, junior secondary, that is grade 6 to 9, 6 core subjects, but the other 7 subjects are just really about social, behavioral, emotional changes to children. So they can be integrated into themes, whatever, and they should not be tested. Right now, tested are carried out for all 7. So so this is the sort of broad framework, which is to reduce the number of subjects tested at the national level, and also that will remove the time spent studying for tests. And again, Upali has done comparisons, what we do and what's internationally. He'll talk more using the grades 11 to years 10 to 11 years as an example. Expand. So basically the idea is, don't make these national exams the only criterion. Let's have something like a school leaving certificate, completion certificates, and let them have several components. 4 components I'm suggesting here. And let in this last area, there can be a lot of, let the schools experiment and come up with new methods. So, and particularly this area, attainment, formative assessment, these subjects where you really, children are learning as integrated way, using their observations and using field books and portfolios. This is really where we get a chance to give them what are called these transversal competencies, soft competencies or what. That's a very important area for that. So this is a broad framework. A lot more work has to be done. And I think that's the last slide.
Thank you, Sujata. There was one question that had been posed on the chat line, which is what you think is the reason for this dropout rate. You said at the time of the O-level, we have about a 15% dropout. What do you think is the reason for that? So after that question, your answer, we can go to Dr. Mampitiya's presentation.
Okay. Actually, I really have not looked at that. Anybody in the audience? Can't I really have not thought about it. No. 15. Let me give one idea. I think children are bored. I mean, it's so hard for some children to fit into these teaching methods. It's so test oriented, paper and pencil, apaganna ahar, what nutritious meal. It's a list. It's never related to what children eat at home. Children can make charts at home, what they eat, at school, what they eat, and really learn by doing. Who is a good citizen? It's a list. It's a list of things that the teacher puts on the board and the children write down. So I think our way of teaching and the curriculum, and particularly the test-oriented, exam-oriented curriculum. The curriculum is not exam-oriented. Exam-oriented teaching is really, I think, making like school incredibly boring for some children. I think that could be one reason.
Basically, some of the reasons for girls dropouts are the fact that the mothers are migrating. So they have to drop out from school and look after the families. And there is also the peer pressure where, some of the girls are not presentable enough in school. Some of them face extreme poverty, so they don't have enough equipment, or, just can't afford to come to school. So extreme poverty, migration are some of the reasons for these dropouts. And, there are a lot of other issues like teen pregnancies, for example. Those are a few other issues as well for girls dropouts. I don't know about boys, though, to be honest.
Are these backed by research studies, Taranga, or are these like data that you have collected at random?
I'm not really sure whether we have facts in our organization, but these are issues that we come across every day in our girls' education program in secondary school.
So we have Mr. Nigel Gray, hand is up, and also Sifans. Can we have Nigel, please?
Yeah, so just a quick question to Dr. Sujata. So firstly, it was quite interesting to see how we could reduce the time that students usually spend studying for exams, because like by restructuring the number of subjects that you test them on. But one question that I also have is about tuition classes in general, where that's actually like a very big market in Sri Lanka. So even though, say, the number of subjects that you test students on in school reduces, but there could be multiple tuition classes, even for the same subject that students go to, which also accounts for a large proportion of their day. So, is there any idea that anyone could have in terms of how we sort of circumvent that issue as well? Because generally, going to tuition classes or multiple tuition classes doesn't necessarily result in a better score if you don't have time to reflect on that information that's being taught.
Yeah, I think the number of subjects, but even I think again, maybe Dr. Ginigi or Dr. Mampitiya also can give their input. I think just the content in the, whether we have reducing the number of subjects and also reducing the content in the subject. I think Dr. Mampitiya will come to that, when you reduce the number of, when you give more hours to more integrated teaching, we give for other activities, project-based activities in the classroom, you will have to reduce the amount of content. But I think Dr. Mampitiya will come to that